some red flags of a Ponzi, and a lot of these are kind of common sense, but to go in a little bit of detail on the unrealistically high returns and low risk, we've already talked about that with that. In fact, on the one that the Nebraska one, there was a 42%. And one other point that kind of came up on that project, I don't think it really the DOJ or the SEC made a big deal about, but and I'm not an attorney to be able to talk to usury rules, but at a certain point, the interest rates are so high that you end up having to somewhat conceal it as something else other than interest because you're above what's the allowable percentages. And so it's kind of interesting when it comes to, Ponzi's and those high percentages, they're sort of, not really legit from just the percentage that's been quoted. And then on, overly consistent returns, obviously on promissory notes, they'd be consistent by nature, but, in profits where it just seems like they're constantly meeting targets is any kind of financial statement fraud for earnings management with companies. Very similar there. Be suspicious of that. Pressure to invest quickly. This is always, we have 2 spots left. There's 10 people we're talking to. Get in here now. Basically, just makes you think less and possibly bypass you would bypass the due diligence that you should or could be putting into that investment. We talk
And on
about
that topic, also, if it's secretive, it's an invite only, and this isn't open to the public. And I know you, I'm going to do you a real solid here because you're a friend of a friend, and I can get you in that type of verbiage.
Yeah, very true. Now, he talked about the complex business model and, whether it's by design or whether that's actually what caused things to go belly up over complex it. Unregistered, unlicensed operators. Yeah, this is where, I was talking about that the SEC is really good about arguing that something is actually an equity instrument rather than a debt instrument, even if they believed it was just a debt instrument. And for that reason, I would imagine if someone really has an investment company and they're asking for money and so on so on, that they probably should be registered purely to kind of cover themselves from a risk. But if they don't, maybe there's reasons for it. It's kind of a one that we see pretty in common as they get hit for securities fraud, mainly just because they weren't even registered to begin with. Difficulty withdrawing funds kind of speaks for itself, where they say that I need new investors to come in, be suspicious of that. Reliance on recruitment, kind of already talked about that. The bring a friend mentality, lack of transparency, or even just obvious claims that methods that they're taking are proprietary. They can't explain it when you're thinking, well, this seems pretty routine, but okay, why are you being secretive about it? And then the too good to be true testimonials, if it's something that actually does have some form of presence where you can get testimonials. I mean, we've all seen the Google reviews out there that just seem overly zealous. They're worded exactly the same. It's all seems to be just looks like it's just non-organic to it and so on. But then on top of all this is be suspicious of overly polished resumes when everything just seems too perfect to it is just always a flag that at least with the investigations I do, get caught up in that.